We are back, and we're talking about suicide today. And I think what we were talking about before we left for the break is that when somebody verbalizes something about suicide, probably the fact is they've been thinking about it for quite some time before they would even let those words out of their mouths. So when you hear somebody kidding about suicide, that's probably not something to be taken lightly.
Exactly. And when you hear someone begin to verbalize feelings about suicide and you begin to summarize the other behaviors that we've talked about, the helplessness, the hopelessness, not being able to navigate through normal everyday life, difficulties in routine. When you put all of that together, it is best to help that person seek professional help. You listen, but don't scold. Provide resources within the community or within the family, resources that that person can go to.
Don't people tend to delegitimize feelings when they're listening to somebody who could be suicidal? In other words, somebody says, oh, this girl broke up with me and I'm just devastated and I feel suicidal, and the response is, hey, no big deal, there's a lot of fish in the ocean, or something, some kind of a trite statement that's supposed to overcome it. I mean, people as a general rule don't do what you just said. You said give them a chance to say what they have to say. Don't necessarily come back with any kind of a retort. Just listen.
Right.
Even though what they're saying may not sound too rational to you.
Exactly. And to just put them off and say, oh, you'll find another girlfriend, where in their distortion, it may have been the love of their life, or they may have felt abandoned or betrayed. And it might be a very serious, if you will, hurt for them.
It seemed that the only rational course to increase the delivery of help is within the definition of doing everything humanly possible to help people.
Exactly.
That's the definition. It's not step in when it's whenever you see something that you have a feeling about. Because I would imagine you have talked with survivors of a suicide family member, and the family members are like, they told me 40 times. I mean, the burden you carry as someone who knew this and didn't take an action has to be heavy.
The devastation of these families who have experienced a loved one with a completed suicide is overwhelming, because was it my fault? Why didn't I see it?
That's the thing that's always struck me about this. You know, a person who commits suicide, what happens with them in their spirit? Religion has its view on it. Secular society has its view on it. But there isn't any question that for the surviving family members, they will know that and live with that every day for the rest of their lives. And I think a lot of suicide victims don't really necessarily recognize what their suicide could do to their family in terms of the pain it could create.
But I think it's also important to understand that, yes, it's only natural to feel the hurt and the loss of a loved one, and to have some feelings of guilt about that, especially when it comes to your child. But please understand that this is an emotional crisis, that the person who committed the suicide was irrational. They were not thinking about the result of what's going to happen to my family. 9 times out of 10, it is the emotional crisis and not someone else's fault that someone commits suicide. It is a singular individual act that usually reflects upon that person's difficulty coping with whatever life challenges they have at the time.
There's much that we can do to prevent suicide, and I hope we can. Thank you for joining us. For more Medical Matters television shows, go online to medicalmatters.tv.